अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वेभ्यो नमः, सर्वेषां कृते स्वागतम्। Welcome to this session. We missed the last session. Last Sunday I was on travel. I had actually been to a place called Udupi in South India. Was a conference there, and I was returning on Sunday. So we are now in the middle of the 14th chapter. I hope that you recollect what we have done. I'll do some recap too in today's session. Apart from that, we were listening to Sri Krishna Leela from the mad-Bhagavatam. We were in the Dashama Skanda, the 11th Adhyaya of the Dashama Skanda. So what I will do now is to recap the different Leelas that we have already heard in the Dashama Skanda of Bhagavatam. We began by listening to how Sri Krishna manifests himself in a prison in Mathura, and subsequently he is carried by his father Vasudeva to Gokula across the Yamuna. And one of the very first Leelas he performs after reaching Gokula is the Putana's Mukti, where this Rakshasi in the form of a beautiful woman comes to kill him, but he kills her and liberates her. Then subsequently the Shakata Banjana Leela. He breaks a huge cart with his little toe, and then he liberates Trinavarta, who comes in the form of a hurricane, a tornado, and he kills him. Then there is the Namakarana Leela, where Garga Muni, he appears in his house suddenly, and then it's decided to name the two children, Krishna and Balaram, and it's done very secretively because Kamsa is sending his spies all over the place, so it should not be known that Krishna is here. After this, he shows his Vishwarupa to Mother Yashoda. This is a Leela which he performs 2 times. This is the first time he does this. Then the Bhagavatam describes various sweet activities that the two babies, along with the other boys, they perform there, playing in the mud, going around to the different houses of the different gopis, breaking the butter pots, and different kinds of mischief like that. Eventually, this results in the famous Damodara Leela, where Mother Yashoda, out of tiredness of trying to control him, binds him to the mortar, and eventually he actually drags this mortar out of the house and performs one more Leela, which is called the Yamalarjuna Leela, where he drags the mortar between two trees, which are actually the sons of Kuvera, Nalakuvara and Manigriva. They have been, you can say, blessed by Narada to be born as trees in Gokula, and they stand there for something like 36,000 years. And when Sri Bhagavan drags the mortar through the gap in between the two trees, the mortar gets stuck there and the two trees fall down, and then they are liberated from that birth. Subsequent to this, the Gopas and Gokula decide to move to Vrindavan because they feel that Gokula is not a safe place. So many different events have happened whereby the little Krishna's life has been threatened. Of course, the people of Vraja, they are not conscious that their little boy is actually Bhagavan himself. In their mind, in their conscious mind, he's just a small baby. It's their little baby that they should protect. So they say that for his protection, we should go out of Gokula, we should go to a different place, and they choose to go to Vrindavan. So they moved to Vrindavan, and it's described how they beautifully settled into Vrindavan, and the children, they performed so many sweet activities of playing there. They enjoyed the beauty of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is such a beautiful place. Described that the hill, the river Yamuna, Govardhan Hill, and the trees, the grass, the forests were all ideal places for them to play and for the cows and the cattle to graze. So we have reached this point, and now what happens? So today we are going to listen to the next two little leelas where he tackles two more asuras who come to kill him. The first one is the liberation of Vatsasura. So there is this asura who comes in the form of a calf, Vatsarupi asura, and he mixes with the cows one day when they are playing and they are grazing by the Yamuna, and his intention is to kill Krishna and Balaram. So he takes the form of a small calf, looking just like one of the other calves. And Krishna immediately recognizes this. And he knows that this is an asura, it's not one of his calves. So from the backside, he approaches this Vatsasura. And Balaram initially doesn't understand why he's doing that, but he comes to know as he watches Krishna doing that. So Krishna goes, and then what happens? Grihitva parapadabhyam sahalangulamachyutah brahmayitva kapithagre prahinod gatajivitam sa kapithair mahakayah patyamanaif papatah. The Bhagavatam describes like this. So Krishna, little baby Krishna, child Krishna, he got hold of the calves. Aparapada means the two legs which were nearer to him. So four legs are there, the two legs which are away and two legs which are close to him. So he caught hold of those two legs which are nearer to him, along with the tail. Langulam means the bushy tail. Sahalangulam Achyutaha. Achyutaha, name of Krishna. So he caught hold of the two legs of that calf and the tail. Brahmayitva, he swung, he whirled it around. Brahmayitva kapitagre, and he threw that calf on top of the kapita trees. So in that place there were a set of trees which are also called in Sanskrit as kapita trees. Kapita trees is one species of trees which look like the bale tree, which bear similar fruits like the bale tree, and they grew in abundance in that region where they were playing. So he throws this calf on top of those trees with all force. Prahinot means he threw it with all force. Gata Jivitam, because of the whirling that he had done, the calf had lost its life. The asura had been killed. Sa Kapitair Mahakayaha. So the moment he lost his life, the prana went out of his body, he took his original form. Mahakaya means huge form. He had a huge body. His original asura body was huge in size, but he had taken a small calf-like form. But now that his prana was gone, that huge body was restored. So in that huge body, he fell on top of those trees. Patyamanaihi papataha. And the trees also fell down because of that. Because of the weight of his body, the trees crashed to the ground. Okay, it's like a huge rock. Let's say a meteor falls on a forest. A lot of trees will also fall down below it, like that. So along with all those trees, this asura crashed to the ground. So watching all this, the little gopas, they did not expect to see a scene like this, so they were completely amazed. And they called out an approval, like we say in Hindi, bahut sahi kiya, like that. Sadhu, sadhu. In Sanskrit, we say sadhu. Sadhu means correct, good thing you have done. And the devas who are watching were always watching, because the devas know that their master, their Ishvara, he is now on Bhuloka, and he is performing all these beautiful leelas. So they are always watching, and so they shower flowers from Swarga. So this is called the Vatsasura Mochana Leela. The next is the Bakasura Mochana. Another Asura appeared there shortly after Vatsasura was killed by Sri Bhagavan. On the same day, Bakasura appeared. So the boys were actually Tau Vatsapalakau Bhutva Sarvalokaikapalakau Sapratarashau Govatsans Charayantau Vicheratuhu. So I'm sorry, it's not on the same day, but on one of these days when they were playing like this shloka describes how Krishna and Balaram, they are actually Sarva Lokaika Palakau, means they are actually the protectors of the entire universe. Ekapalakau means there is nobody else other than them. Okay, it's actually Krishna and Balaram are one single being. That universal being appears in two forms as Krishna and Balaram, and he is a Ekapalaka. So here it's described in dual number, Sarva Lokaika Palakau. So these two beings, they are actually the universal protector, the universal being who protects the entire universe. But now, in this Leela, what are they doing? They are protecting the calves. Vatsa palako. Tau Vatsa palako bhutva. Having become the protectors of the calves, they sapratarasho govatsans charayantau. Sapratarashaha. Pratarashaha means breakfast. Sapratarasho means those who have completed their breakfast. So what does it mean? It means after completing their breakfast in the morning every day, they would go out from the house. Govatsans charayanto vicheratuhu. They would roam around in the land of Vraja, in Vrajbhumi. They would just roam around with the cows from morning till evening, till their mothers would go out and call them. They would go out with the cows and they would play. They would go to Yamuna, they would go to some lake, they would go on Govardhan sometimes, and they would spend the whole day after having only breakfast in the morning. So this way they are performing their Leela. So one day they go to a lake and they want to make their cows drink water and also drink the water themselves. And suddenly they sight a large creature with a very long beak. And this creature is so huge and the beak is so sharp and long that it appears like the top of a mountain which has fallen off by virtue of being hit by a thunderbolt. It's as if a big mountain's, the shikhar, the top, the peak, has been hit by a thunderbolt and has rolled off the mountain and fallen on the ground. What will it look like? So this creature looked like that. And all of a sudden they saw this, they realized it's actually a living creature. It's a huge bird with a long beak looking like a crane. And that's why in Sanskrit a crane is called a Baka, right? Baka. So looking at this, they trembled in fear. The little boys, they trembled in fear. So Bakasura, a very great asura, had come there in the form of a huge crane. And what does he do at this time? So he pounces on little Krishna. The moment he sees that Krishna is nearby, he just pounces on him, just like a huge vulture pounces on maybe a small creature. It just pounces on Krishna and gulps him instantly with its long, sharp beak. So looking at that sight, already the boys are trembling in fear, and now they see that Krishna has been gulped by this. Yeah, including Balaram, all the Gopas, they become almost devoid of their prana. They become as if they are losing their consciousness. They are about to faint. They feel like that. Then what happens? Tam talumulam prahadantam agnivat gopalasunum pitaram jagadguroh Chacharda sadyoti rukshakshatam bakaha tundena hantum punarabhyapadyata. So that Baka, it describes how did that Baka, that crane, feel after swallowing Krishna. It says, Tam talumulam prahadantam. The crane felt a burning sensation in the bottom of its talu. Talu refers to the top portion of our mouth. Inside the mouth, the top portion is called the talu. And it could feel below that talu, that is above the tongue, and the roof of the mouth, you can say roof of the mouth, it could feel a burning sensation. Tam talu moolam prahadantam agnivat, like a fire had been lit there. If somebody were to light a fire inside the mouth and it starts burning the root of our mouth, the root of the top of the ceiling of the mouth, then how would we feel? So the Baka started feeling like that. And who was doing this? Gopala Sunum Pitaram Jagat Guroho. So the person, the entity which was doing this burning sensation to the Baka was the Pitaram Jagat Guroho. Jagat Guru refers to the the father of the guru of the universe, the Jagat, who is Lord Brahma. Okay, Jagat Guroho Pitaram, the father of Lord Brahma, the father of the guru of the universe, who has appeared here as Gopala Sunu. Gopala Sunu refers to the son of Gopala. Who is Gopala here in the shloka? It refers to Nanda. Nanda is called Gopala because he is a protector of the go. He takes care of the go. Cowherd. He's a cowherd. So Gopala Sunum Pitaram Jagat Guroho, the son of Nanda, but the father of the guru of the universe. You see, contrasting terms. The beautiful contrast is brought out here by Sri Vyasdev ji. To such a personality. Such a personality appeared to the crane like a big fire had been lit inside its mouth. So what did it do? Chacharda sadyo atirukshakshatam bakaha. So the crane immediately, it is what is called as a reflexive action, right? Something hot is inside. What do? You throw it out. So the Baka immediately threw it out, threw out Krishna. Chacharda means threw it out of its mouth. Sadhyaha, atiruksha. Atiruksha means extremely intolerable. It was extremely intolerable to its mouth. Akshatam. Akshata means that which is not injured. So although Krishna was swallowed by the crane, Krishna remained uninjured. Nothing happened to him. It was the crane which got injured. Its throat got burnt. Its mouth got completely burnt. So it threw Krishna out of its mouth. Tundena hantum punarabhya padyata. And so Krishna was in the air and the crane again tried to attack him. Hantum punarabhya padyata. It realized that now this object which I want to kill is now in front of me. So it decided to catch hold of that object again with its jaws and kill it. Tamapatantam sa nigrihya tundayor dorbhyam vakam kamsa sakam satam patihi pashyatsu baleshu dadara leelaya mudavaho viranavat divaukasam. Very beautiful shloka. It says, Tam apatantam sa nigrihya tundayor. So as the crane was falling, pouncing, apatantam means pouncing on him, on Krishna. Krishna, now this is written from Krishna's perspective. Krishna is watching as he is being tossed in the air. He is watching the crane pouncing on him. What did he do? Tundayoho dorbhyambakam kam sasakam satampatihi. So he is satampatihi, means he is the master of the saintly people. And so he caught hold of the friend of Kamsa, which is this crane, with his hands. He caught hold of the beak. Pashyat subaleshu dadara lilaya. Lilaya means very playfully. Mudavaha means in a very joyful manner. Not that he was taking a lot of stress. In a very playful, joyful manner, Dadara means he tore it apart. He caught hold of the beak, you can say that the two jaws which constitute the beak of the crane, and tore them apart. Pashyat Subalesha. As the boys were watching all this because already they had seen Krishna being swallowed and they were not knowing what to do. They were just watching. Suddenly, they saw the crane throw the baby, to throw the child up in the air. Krishna is now up in the air. And the next instant, he is catching hold of the two jaws of the crane's beaks and tearing it apart. So they saw Krishna tearing it apart. And how did he tear it apart? Leelaya means not with lot of strain or lot of difficulty, playfully, joyfully. It says Viranavat Divaukasam. Divaukas refers to an elephant and Virana refers to grass like bamboo. Okay, so what do elephants do sometimes in the forest? If they go to a bamboo forest, they may playfully pluck the bamboo just out of fun, just for fun. They're just walking through the bamboo forest. They may just pluck the bamboo and tear it apart. Okay, just like they tear the bamboo apart with almost no effort. There's no effort involved for an elephant to tear a bamboo apart. So just like an elephant tears a bamboo grass apart, just like that, Sri Krishna, he tore open the beak of this crane and thereby he killed that crane. So this is the killing of Bakasura. So the Devas who are again watching this, they shower fragrant flowers and they are beating drums and they are blowing conches because they have witnessed a very beautiful Leela, how Krishna performs this so effortlessly and in the form of a child. And the little Gopas, they don't know what's going on and for them, Krishna is just a little friend for them, their beloved friend. They're so dear to them and they are completely awestruck. And they're even more awestruck that the Devas who are watching, they see the Devas from Swarga, they are showering flowers and they don't know why this is happening. And they feel their prana, their consciousness has come back to normal. And with so much happiness, they go and embrace their dearmost Krishna with great love. And they are so happy that nothing has happened to him. He's alive, and the asura has been killed. And they return home and they narrate the incident to their parents. They're all so excited. Just like children, if they go to school, like us, when we went to school as children, if something interesting happened in the school on that day, then we would be very eager to come back and tell our parents. And the moment we reach our home, the first thing we would do, we would start narrating to our parents that this happened, what happened today, this happened, that happened, and so on. So they come back home and with great excitement, they narrate everything to their parents. And the parents also are amazed to hear all this, and they are already used to Krishna being, attacked by different kinds of, ill-intending asuras. And now they behold Krishna, and once again this has happened, and they see, wow, once again our little child has returned from the jaws of death, and they look at him with so much love, and they recollect the numerous times that Krishna had a brush with death since he was born. And they recollect the sage of the words of sage Garga during his birth when he was doing the Namakarana, during the Namakarana Samskar. Garga Rishi had told them about this boy being an extraordinary boy. It is not his first birth. He had been born earlier in different complexions. He's born again and he will perform wonderful activities. So Garga had predicted this, and now they recollect that yes, he had told us that this boy would do all kinds of things, and now we can see that happening. Iti nandadayo gopaha Krishna Rama katham muda kurvanto ramamanascha navindan bhavavedanam. So this shloka tells us how, in this manner, although they saw the little child being attacked by different kinds of asuras and every time coming out safe and secure and nothing happening to him, but still not realizing that he is actually Sri Bhagavan, who is the supreme being, the universal being, the supreme consciousness which pervades everything, and upon whom everything is dependent, who is actually protecting us. But not knowing all that, they just enjoyed. Every time this happened, they became anxious and then they became happy. And then they saw the beautiful activities that he was doing, and they kept talking about them, talking about those activities. And so Ramamanaha means they were always filled with pleasure. Their life was always filled with pleasure, and they did not experience Bhava Vedana. You see, Bhava Vedana refers to, Bhava means samsara, okay? Material existence. This word Bhava here refers to material existence, the existence that we experience. So Bhava Vedana, Vedana means anxieties, troubles, disturbances, you can say stress. So in this existence, all of us invariably, we go through so many anxieties, stress, so many difficulties, problems, and so on. But the people in Braja, although they also had so many challenging situations, they did not experience the miseries of those challenging situations because of Krishna being in their midst. Because all the time they were taking pleasure in witnessing these activities of Krishna, talking about them, recollecting them, and so on. So because of that, they did not experience the different anxieties and the suffering of this material existence. So Vyasdev tells us that if we also do this, if we keep listening to Krishna Leela in this manner, then we would also be able to counter or cope with the difficulties of this universe. And our mind would become free from all kinds of anxieties. This is the process. This is a process through which we connect with that universal being. That is why this Shastra is written. The Shastra is written for us to be able to connect with him by listening to these kind of activities of that universal being who comes in the form of a little child, who is not a human being but comes in the form of a human being and performs activities like a human being but in an extraordinary manner. We also become free from all kinds of anxieties. So the little boys in this way, not knowing that their little friend is actually Bhagavan himself, they spend their time joyfully in Vrindavana, completely, absorbed in their play, playing games like hide and seek, building bridges, acting like monkeys, jumping around, etc. Okay, so Sri Vyasdevji concludes the 11th chapter of the Dashamaskanda of Bhagavatam with this. So we should always remember when we talk about Krishna, unlike we sometimes hear outside people talking about Krishna just like a loose character. He was playing with girls, he was stealing butter, and this and that. They think that it's just an object of entertainment, but not at all like that. The Bhagavatam clarifies that although he behaves like a human being, he is not a human being because he is Trigunatita. He's always beyond the three gunas of Prakriti. And this is the distinguishing, one of the distinguishing, characteristics between us, the Jivatma, and Sri Bhagavan, the Paramatma, is this, that we come under the three gunas of Prakriti, and Sri Bhagavan never comes under the three gunas of Prakriti. So in the 14th chapter, we have been talking about the three gunas. This shloka is from the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which we have already read. Sattvam rajas tama iti gunaf prakriti sambhavaha nibadhnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. So the three gunas, they bind us, sattva, rajas and tamas, they bind the living being in this material existence. Even though the living being, we, each of us is a living being, the Jivatma, we are actually imperishable. We don't have a death. We don't perish. But we experience death only because of the three gunas, because we are under the influence of the three gunas. So what are the three gunas? The sattva, rajas and tamas, the three gunas which we talked about. They are three types of ropes, three different types of ropes. Guna in Sanskrit also means a rope. So you can translate three gunas as three ropes of Prakriti, three ropes of material nature. So we went through these ideas in the 14th chapter. So Sri Bhagavan's Prakriti or Maya operates using the three gunas on us. All the living beings in this material existence, when I say world, I don't mean this earth. I mean this material existence, this universe, or you can say all of material existence is under the influence of the three gunas. The three gunas together, they work to bind us to material existence because of our desires. The influence of the three gunas is present at all times, means all the three gunas are present. Even though we may say that at any one time, one guna dominates the other two. For example, sometimes sattva guna becomes very dominant and rajoguna, tamoguna become subservient. At some other time, rajoguna is very dominant on us and tamoguna, sattva guna are subservient. They go into the background. And similarly, at other times, tamoguna becomes dominant over the other two gunas. So, but all the time, all the three gunas are present. Now, again, Sri Bhagavan is never influenced by these three gunas. So now, for our convenience, I have actually tried to list down the symptoms with which we can recognize the influences of the three gunas on us. How do we know which guna is acting? How do we recognize that this thing that I'm feeling now is an influence of a particular guna? Which guna is it? So I have identified some dimensions. For example, in terms of the dimension of life purpose and goal. Okay, now we hear about our teachers, our parents telling us that you should have a purpose in life, you should have a goal in life, right? Okay, now under the influence of Sattva Guna, one has a sustained sense of purpose, means one who is predominantly in the mode of Sattva, in the influence of Sattva, he feels a sustained sense of purpose. He doesn't have a changing sense of purpose, unlike somebody in Rajas. When Rajas becomes dominant in somebody's life, then their goals and purpose keep changing from time to time. Sometime they have a goal, and after maybe a few months, their goal will change to something else. And then their life purpose becomes something else. And again, after some time, they are discontent with that, they go to some other purpose. But those in tamas, they have no clear goals and purpose. They are confused. They don't even think about having a goal or purpose in life. The next dimension is the state of mind, which is very important to us because all the time we experience our mental state. We see the world through the state of mind that we experience. Right? Now, for those in sattva, there is calmness and peace largely. Because of rajas, there is excitement, but excitement doesn't stay. Excitement keeps alternating with boredom. When rajas is acting on us, sometimes we become very excited, but other times we become very bored. So this alternation between excitement and boredom is a symptom of rajas. And in tamas, there is predominantly boredom and ambiguity, feeling always bored and uninterested in life. Similarly, those in sattva are largely content with their as-is situation. Whatever kind of situation, they may be very rich people or they may be very poor in the sense, very simple. The example of Sudama is given in the Bhagavatam. I will narrate the story of Sudama in a future class. He was very simple, very, had barely enough to make his ends meet, had barely enough clothing. He's also called Kuchaila. Kuchaila means one who did not have enough good clothing or did not have adequate clothing is called Kuchela. And even then, he was very content. He was not disturbed. He was very joyful inside. That's the symptom of sattva. Those with rajas are actually very discontent with the asses. So they want to keep changing because of that. For those in tamas are perpetually discontented. Okay, unlike those in rajas are looking for something to change, to find more contentment. And after they find something with contentment, after some time again discontentment comes. But those in tamas, regardless of what they get, they will always be discontent. Tamas is a initiator of that kind of discontentment. Now, in sattva, there is a very weak craving for these sense objects. The objects of the senses for looking for pleasure, those in sattva do not chase them because of the happiness they are feeling inside. So there is sustained inner joyfulness for them. Whereas those in rajas are always craving for sense objects. Rajas drives that craving. Rajas fuels craving. Because of rajas, one feels the desire for something or the other to indulge their senses in. It could be food, good food, or it could be sexual pleasure, or it could be going to a beautiful place, a different place. They very quickly get bored with one place. They want a different place, something that looks different. Sometimes it's the mountain, sometimes it's a mall, sometimes it's some beautiful city, or sometimes it's a garden. But wherever they are, they want to always go to another place after some time. So there is a craving for sense objects which keeps moving. Uh, in the case of tamas, it's not so well defined. It is arbitrary, subdued craving. There's no strong craving for sense pleasure, nor is there contentment with what you have. It is you're not happy with anything. So you don't have faith that even if you change, you'll become happy with the new thing that you get. Right? Whereas the guy in Rajas at least is hopeful that if I change, I'll get pleasure in the new thing that I'm going to. The guy in Tamas doesn't have that hope. He's feeling hopeless. So, sustained inner joyfulness is a quality of sattva. Joyfulness alternating with sadness. Sometimes there is joy, sometimes there is sadness, going up and down. That is the quality of rajas. And persistent sadness and depression is a quality of tamas. Similarly, in terms of, you can say, clarity of thought, okay, concentration and clarity of thought. In sattva, there is sustained concentration, there is sustained clarity of thought. The person can think calmly, clearly. In rajas, clarity of thought, concentration alternates with distraction. For some time there is concentration, sometimes there is distraction. Sometimes there is clarity, sometimes there is fuzziness. Okay. For tamas, people in tamas are always distracted. They never have clarity of mind. They live in a vague sphere. Their mind is always filled with vagueness, lack of clarity. Similarly, for those in sattva, there is sustained sense of strength inside. Now, this strength is not about muscular power. They may be muscularly very weak. They may be very thin, very weak, or feeble, or they may be strong. That doesn't matter. Regardless of what their physical body is capable of, inside they feel very strong, very confident, fearless. You can see that informed confidence. It's not a false confidence, it's informed confidence. And because of which there is a sense of inner stability. Completely, the mind is stable, calm, not feeling insecure, feeling very secure, stable. Now, in the case of rajas, because of the nature of dissatisfaction, discontentment, sometimes one feels strong, satisfied, but other times one feels weak, discontent, dissatisfied. One wants to look for something else which will make them feel better. Right? So their confidence alternates with fear. They go up and down, and they are not feeling very stable. Their stability is changing. In the case of tamas, there is a continuous sense of insecurity, weakness, lack of confidence, fear, depression. And whenever there is some confidence also, it is a foolish confidence, means you end up doing something which gets you into more trouble. Okay, for example, you may go and rob someplace, you may go and steal somewhere. Or if you are a doctoral student, you may not have the sense to realize that if you do plagiarism, you will get caught. Right? Plagiarism seems tempting, but you just do it without thinking that I will get caught, my guide or my teacher will catch me and then probably punish me. You think, अरे कुछ नहीं होगा, वो देखा जाएगा, जब होगा तब देखा जाएगा. That kind of thinking. Okay, it is foolish confidence. So it's foolish fearlessness. It's not the sattvic fearlessness where it's informed. With clarity, the person knows that nothing will happen. Here, foolishly, not being able to see the consequences. Because of not being able to see the consequences, one foolishly does stupid things. So this is tamas. And there is a sustained sense of unhappiness, sustained sense of depression. So if one feels in this manner, one should know that tamas is acting upon them. And in sattva, because of this, there is stability, and there is the outward orientation. So the third dimension. So I've talked about mental state and life purpose and goals so far. Now I go to the third dimension, which is the outward orientation. So here I have listed universal tolerance is a symptom of sattva. So one who is dominated by sattva will feel very tolerant towards other people. You see, this is the environment that you're dealing with. Always, you cannot avoid the environment, right? Sometimes we can go into a cave or into our room and sit quietly and meditate, but invariably the environment will act upon us. Even if you sit in a room quietly, there is summer when it feels very hot, there's winter which feels very cold, right? But when you go outside the room, there are other people who will come and discuss things with you, who come and raise issues, who come and sometimes accuse you of things which you have not done, or somebody steals money from you. So many disturbances keep coming. But the person in sattva has a sense of tolerance. He's able to cope with that comfortably. His mind has got the strength to cope with it. In the case of rajas, there is a limited tolerance. A certain extent, the person is able to tolerate with the hope that it will get over soon. In the case of tamas, very low tolerance and very high irritability. A person in tamas will become irritated even by a very small disturbance, even a very small sound, or somebody says something to them which hardly is offensive. Somebody says something, they may misinterpret that and get irritated. They may become angry with that person. Whereas the person in sattva, even if somebody says something that is really offensive, they will just laugh it off. They may just think that, "Arey, kya hai isme? This guy doesn't know what he's speaking." They just think this fellow is foolish. He doesn't know what he's saying, and they just laugh. They don't feel irritated. Right? Universal tolerance. They're able to tolerate very well. And so they have a sense of detachment. And this detachment fuels, because of this detachment, they feel a sense of affection towards everything. There is no hatred and envy. Okay, so sometimes people, they misunderstand detachment. I will explain now the difference between indifference and detachment. Okay, in sattva, detachment here means attachment to a higher reality. Because you are conscious of that universal being, about Bhagwan, you know that this universe is inside that Bhagwan pervades everything, that consciousness, I'm a part of that. You have that realization, you have that Shraddha, you can see that, you can perceive that. And because of that, you are attached to that being, you become attached to that being, and that develops in you a sense of detachment towards every mundane thing. And that detachment actually from the mundane fuels affection and love towards everyone. You are willing to forgive even if somebody commits a major offense or something criminal. Of course, you know that legally they have to be punished, because otherwise they will continue to do wrong things in the future. But you do it out of compassion. If you punish somebody also, you punish out of compassion. We just heard the Leela of Sri Narada. He curses the two sons of Kuvera to become trees. And we also discussed how that curse is not given out of anger. He's not angry with them, he feels compassion towards them. And out of compassion and love, he gives them that curse. And he blesses them as he does that, that Sri Krishna will come and liberate you from that birth as trees. And you will also have the memory of what you did wrong as trees. You will not be in tamoguna. You will be in sattva guna, so you will remember all that you have done. Okay, now in Rajas, what happens? So Rajas, the consciousness of Rajas is one of attachment. Attachment to material objects, material enjoyment. You see enjoyment in matter. Okay, so all the affection or hatred that you feel is because of that attachment. What gives you material pleasure, you love that. You are affectionate towards that. If somebody praises you, you like them. If somebody critiques you, you hate them. Okay, this is the mentality of Rajas. So people who are Rajasic will gravitate towards those who praise them, and they will try to harm, or they will try to take revenge on those who critique them, or who don't respect them, who don't honor them enough. Right? Whereas those in tamas, they feel a sense of hatred and envy towards everybody. They are not able to tolerate most people. They have very few friends. They suspect everybody. They are fearful of anyone. Even somebody who tries to do good to them, they don't trust them. They feel that one day he will cheat me. What if he cheats me? What if he turns around, right? This is the influence of tamas. When tamas is too strong, this kind of feeling of no trust, but only hatred, jealousy, feeling very quickly jealous of others who are happy. So you want to harm them. Okay, the person in tamas wishes ill for everybody. The person in sattva wishes well for everybody. The person in rajas wishes ill for those who make them happy, and wishes ill for those who make them unhappy. You can see the difference between all the three gunas. So, therefore, the person in sattva is in complete harmony with the outside world. When we feel that harmony with the outside world, we are able to accept the world as it is. You see, this property of accepting the world, property of our willingness to accept, uh, the situations as they are, accepting the world as it is, accepting people as they are. This is a property of sattva. Being peaceful with the world as it is, being peaceful with people as they are, not thinking that they should change for me. Okay, this is a property of sattva. Whereas in rajas, there is always the feeling that I should change that person to my liking. Why that person is not changing? Why they are like that? Why they speak like that? So feeling disturbance. That is why we gravitate towards people who respect us, who like us, etc. Because of rajas. Person in sattva becomes neutral because he doesn't mind somebody who of this type or that type. He's willing to tolerate everything and be neutral towards everybody. Okay, the sages, the sadhus are like that, the genuine sadhus, not anybody who calls themselves a sadhu, but the people who have genuinely mastered their mind and their senses, like Sri Narada, they are like that. And in tamas, there is very, very poor connect with the outside. Because you don't like anybody, in general, the tendency is to hate others. Anything that anybody does, you disapprove and you don't connect with anyone. Whatever anybody says, you say it is wrong. You don't like it, right? So that is a situation of tamas. So similarly, likings. What kind of things, likings do we feel because of the three gunas? If sattva is dominant with us, then we would like things like solitude, knowledge, balance. Balance means not an excess of anything, not a short of lack of anything. For example, diet, food, sleep, everything is in balance. Okay, and a liking for something beyond the mundane, beyond the ordinary things, something like like God. I want to know about God. I want to know, does God really exist? I'm curious to know. I want to know what God means. These kind of questions, you like to talk about them. You like to hear them. And similarly, when somebody talks about something from the Shastra, like the Puranas, like we are talking about now from the Bhagavatam, Krishna Lila, you develop a liking for that. So if you develop a liking for that, it's because of the element of sattva in you. And liking for simplicity, keeping things as simple as possible, not complicating them. Okay. Whereas those in rajas, they like, in contrast to those in sattva who like solitude, they like being, in places which are quiet, like a quiet park, a quiet hillside with just the breeze blowing. People in rajas, they don't like that quietness much. Maybe sometimes they will appreciate it, but by and large, they want to go to places where there are crowds. There's an opportunity for them to gain attention. They seek attention. So they will dress themselves well. They will want to take pictures of themselves and post it on social media because people can appreciate what they look like, what they did, what kind of things they did. They want to be seen, they want to be known, they want to be heard by others, and they want people to appreciate them, right? So this is a property of rajas. Similarly, liking for wealth, liking for wearing attractive clothes, wearing jewelry on the body, okay, and showing it to others, not just feeling jewelry, but if nobody is seeing the jewelry, then what's the point? So people should see it, people should say it is beautiful, right? And there's not much concern for balance. They don't believe in balance. They think it's a stupid thing. The people in sattva don't know how to enjoy life. So they indulge in this world, indulgence, excessive. They figure out ways by which they can indulge, from one indulgence to another indulgence. And the liking for the mundane, liking for matter, material, accumulation of material objects, new gadgets which come, new types of furniture, new types of beds, everything new as the world is. And that is why the industry survives. The industry survives because of people's rajoguna. Because people are rajasic, they're always changing. So the industry goes on innovation. All innovation is because of this, right? Or at least a lot of it. Okay, I do understand some innovation is because of problems. To solve problems, innovation is done, which is fine. But a lot of innovation goes because of people's rajasic nature, because people want something different all the time, and a liking for complexity and sophistication. So they are not able to appreciate how a sadhu is able to live a simple life. How can a sadhu be happy? Something must be wrong with him, right? Because he's sleeping on a very simple mattress. Look at my bed. I've got a water bed. There's water inside it. It gives me such a sensual feeling, right? So sophistication, complexity. That is a property of rajas. Now we take the guy in tamas, uh, liking for sleep, nothing, completely indifferent to the world. There's a term called couch potato, right? Have you heard this term, couch potato? It's a humorous term. Somebody who sits on the couch and just goes on eating. And he looks like a potato, and probably one of the things he eats is potato chips, right? Today, potato chips, eating potato chips and drinking Coke is one favorite pastime of people, and watching TV. So put on the TV and the TV goes on, and the TV today is made for that purpose. Right? So many different channels blasting so many different scenes at us, so many opportunities for filling our visual and oral senses with pleasure. And so sitting on a couch all day long, day and night, enjoying that. The IPL, for example, is a very wonderful tool for all this. To increase our rajas and tamas, it serves that purpose very well. I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm only saying that this is how it is. So they are unconcerned about their health. Okay, when they, although all that information is available, so much information is available on good health, about not overeating, not drinking Coke and eating potato chips. It's very harmful for health, but they're not concerned because it gives them so much pleasure, right? So much happiness sitting like that without any action, no ambition in life. Life just goes on in that samadhi. This is a tamasic samadhi. This is tamasic samadhi where you're just lost in that sleep, laziness, sitting on a couch, sitting on the bed all day long. And they're neither simple nor sophisticated. They neither have a sense of simplicity with the sadhus have, nor do they have the sophistication with the rajasic people have. They are neither this nor that. They are just disorganized. Okay, that is tamas. So now I have listed. I spent some time thinking about the kind of symptoms through various descriptions that you find in the shastra, and of course through my own experience of these symptoms in my own life. I wrote down all this, and I want you to also reflect on them and tell me what you feel about them and how we can use this. You can use this chart as a reference. We can improve this chart further. We can organize it better. We can apply some headings and colors and so on and make it look even better and add some more symptoms on all the three gunas and the multiple dimensions. We can also identify more dimensions if we wish, and create a tool by which we can understand where we are, what we are feeling. So how do we then increase the goal? The Bhagavad Gita tells us how life becomes successful when we remove rajas and tamas, go out of rajas and tamas and become more sattvic. Increasing sattva and diminishing rajas and tamas is the purpose that is immediately presented to us. And I've identified 5 dimensions of life on which we can focus to achieve this. The first dimension is the dimension of diet, which I consider the most fundamental among these 5. Diet shapes our thinking like nothing else does. So, food that we eat should be fresh, light, juicy, vegetarian, and having a pleasant taste. Okay, food which is too pungent, which is spicy, food which is hard, which is devoid of water content, hard and dry, food which is stale, which has been cooked, let's say, a long time back and it's become stale, and food which is non-vegetarian food, including fish and eggs and so on. All this kind of food must be avoided. Okay, so diet-wise, the food that I've listed in green color there is food that will help us become more sattvic. Any food which is light. That's why you see predominantly successful people in different walks of life, if you talk to them, whether it is film actors or it is um, sportsmen, the people who are intellectually, they eat food which is light because it helps them to concentrate better, focus on their work. It gives them a sense of focus and live a life which is harmonious with the work that they are doing, which is peaceful. Okay, unless you are peaceful, you cannot achieve success in anything you do. You'll always be disturbed and distracted. Okay, the next important dimension after diet is sleep. Sleep is extremely important, and there is a misconception among the young people today, especially those who are doing MBA, right? That it is not very cool to sleep enough, right? You must sleep less. That shows that you are hardworking, you are ambitious, and that is respected. People who sleep just 2 hours a day. Sometimes people come and boast that, sir, for 3 days I did not sleep at all because I had assignment after assignment and I kept doing that, and they consider that as an achievement, right? It may be an achievement for that particular moment that you could accomplish a task, but in the long term, if you do that, then you're actually killing yourself, because sleep is something that's extremely important to remain sane, remain healthy, and adequate sleep, which is unbroken sleep. Once you go to sleep, until sleep is complete, we should not get up ideally. And this happens when we eat food which is sattvic. If you eat food which is not sattvic, then sleep can get disturbed. But if somebody eats food which is sattvic day after day after day, then one is able to achieve this. One can rest early and rise early. That's very important. Capture the early morning. Early morning is the time when sattva guna dominates, and one should tap into that. So the opposite of that, which is listed here, sleeping late, rising late, arbitrary times, sleep which is broken, sleep which is improper, is all favorable for rajas and tamas. While doing work done with a sense of duty, free from greed for more and so on, is very sattvic. But for work done with a craving for self-profit, thinking that what will I get from this? Okay, there is a very common phrase today in the industry that what is in it for me, right? Have you heard this phrase? I'm sure you heard this phrase. What is in it for me? Okay, now sometimes we have to ask that, obviously, for being practical, because people keep impinging on us so many different things. So we have to ask that question often. But overall, our consciousness should not look for what is in it for me, because the duty that is there is an opportunity to cultivate sattva. We should see our work as an opportunity to become more sattvic. So when work is done with a sense of duty and detachment from the fruits of that work, it is sattvic. It fills us with sattva guna. Similarly, recreation, which I consider extremely important, among the five dimensions, I've listed it fourth, but it doesn't mean it is less important than the others. It's only relatively positioned there. It's very, very important. If recreation is done consistently in a proper manner without doing it excessively, then it fills us with sattva guna. Okay, from my personal experience, I can tell you this, that getting up very early in the morning and doing some sport activity, it could be a set of yoga asanas, it could be running, it could be walking, it could be trekking, it could be swimming, it could be playing tennis, badminton, or even cricket. Whatever you can do within your means, please do it, and it will fill you with sattva guna if you do it consistently day after day after day, early in the morning. Early in the morning means, say, something like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, what is possible for you in your work life context. And either no recreation at all, or recreation done arbitrarily, means whimsically. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't do it. One day you feel like it, you do it. Another day you don't feel like you don't do it. Recreation done like that or is more favorable for rajas and tamas. It's no use. It doesn't give you any sattva guna. Spirituality. It is finally, I've listed it last, not because it's least important, but because it's the fundamental thing. Spirituality is actually the larger purpose of being sattvic. The purpose of being sattvic is to become spiritually aware, or become aware of our true self, to move away from our current self. Our current self is influenced very strongly by rajas and tamas, but our pure self is actually even beyond sattva. Our pure self is realized when we are in sattva, and when we go beyond sattva, then we fully realize our pure self, and that is spirituality. Spirituality is done through the activities like japa. In the Kali Yuga, japa, especially the japa of the Nama, Harinama Sankirtana, is considered as the tool, as the means of achieving the realization of ourself and of Sri Bhagavan, the universal being, through japa and the study of Shastra. This is very fundamental. And no sadhana, okay, absence of this, or sadhana done very arbitrarily, or sadhana done for showing off. Okay, or there are people who do this, and you will see this happening if you go to a temple. You'll see people behaving like saints in the temple, only in the temple. But after some time, you will see them somewhere else. They will be anything other than a saint, right? But in the temple, because other people are watching, somebody is taking their video and they're going to post that video on some social media. So there is a lot of sadhu-like behavior, right? So this kind of sadhana, which is done, is sadhana in the mode of in the influence of rajas or tamas. Either no sadhana or similarly reading of shastra, sadhutva shown in this manner is rajasic and tamasic. It's of no use, it's destructive. It's destructive. So the overall purpose is to brighten our consciousness, rediscover our pure consciousness. That is the purpose of going to sattva. Okay, that is what we are reading the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita for. The Gita chapter points out that, to eliminate rajas and tamas, become more sattvic, and eventually go beyond sattva also and become trigunatita. Becoming trigunatita means going beyond sattva and realizing the pure self, the pure happiness of the self, and connecting with that universal being, Sri Bhagavan, whom we are hearing about. So with these words, I will stop for today, and I will look forward to your questions and comments and the discussion that we can have with this. Thank you for joining us today. Eager to have your questions.
Pranam sir, Akshat here.
Yes, Pranam.
Sir, just and I realize this is, of course, this is a topic which can perhaps evoke some strong emotions or reactions as well. But why is it that and I would love to have your perspective, of course. Why is it that generally non-vegetarian food is considered to be tamasic in nature, whereas practically every even plants and all are living things for that matter. But generally we believe, and it is kind of strongly believed, that vegetarian food is sattvic, whereas non-vegetarian food will be more of tamasic.
It's because by design it's like that. You see, the way in which this universe is designed and the living beings are designed, the human body is not designed for non-vegetarian food. So why am I saying that? Is because scientifically, if you compare the characteristics of the human body with the characteristics of herbivorous animals and carnivorous animals, you will find that the characteristics of the human body are very close to those of the herbivorous animals. What characteristics am I referring to? Things like, for example, the structure of the teeth in the mouth. Okay, our teeth are more molars, which are used for grinding food, chewing food. And we don't have much canines. We just have small canine teeth. But our teeth are for biting and chewing, like the cows and other herbivorous animals have. Whereas if you look at the dental structure of the carnivorous animals, they are more with canines. They have less of teeth meant for biting and chewing. They're more of tearing and swallowing. That's how they eat food, right? So that is number one. Number two is the pH value. You know what the pH value means in science. The pH value for the herbivorous animals is alkaline, like us. Ours is slightly alkaline, slightly more than 7. Whereas for carnivorous animals, it is less than 7, it's acidic. So our pH value is more like that of the herbivorous animals than the carnivorous animals. This is the second point. The third point is the intestines, the intestinal structure of the digestive system of the human beings. How does it compare with those of the other animals? It's very close to that of the herbivorous animals. Our intestines, we have a very long intestinal length, right? We have a very long small intestine, and then we have a large intestine after that. So this length of the intestine in the carnivorous animals is very, very short compared to us, much shorter. Why is it like that? Because the meat which the carnivorous animals are meant to eat quickly decomposes. And after quickly decomposes, it's meant to be thrown out of the body. Because after it decomposes, it only causes poison in the body. It harms the body. So if we eat meat, then the meat will reside, first of all, our stomach is not able to digest it the way their stomach is able to digest it because it's more acidic for them. And our stomach is not able to break down the meat in the same manner that their stomach can. Now, even apart from that, in the intestine, that undigested meat, if it spends a long time in the intestine, it will harm us. So it spends time and it causes it leaves residue in the intestines, which is poisonous in nature, right? Whereas in the carnivorous animals, that doesn't happen. Their body is designed for that. So 3 points I have told you, but there are a few other points also, like the type of skin and the type of the nails that we have. The kind of nails that we have are similar to the kind of hooves and equivalent of the nails that the herbivorous animals have, compared to the carnivorous animals, which have claws for tearing the flesh. So there are a number of other body parameters and so on, which make us very close to the herbivorous animals and not the carnivorous animals. So by this design, we are meant to have vegetarian food because that gives us strength, not meat, right? And that is the biological reason. All these things are the biological reason. Now, there is a reason from the perspective of the Shastra, which talks about karma. Okay, karma is, the kind of reaction or the fruits we get depending on the actions we do. So when we kill a living being, see, when we eat vegetarian food, at least most of it, doesn't involve killing a plant, like plucking mangoes from a tree, fruits, vegetables. We don't have to kill the plant in most cases. In some cases, we do, but that is the design of nature. But in many cases, we don't kill the plant. We just take the fruit from that plant or vegetable and we can eat it, and the thing again produces. So in the case of meat, you have to necessarily kill the animal. Animal is necessarily killed, whether it's fish or a chicken or whatever it is. So that karma comes to us. There is a universal system of karma which says that if you kill or if you harm something, then that harm will come back to you. And so that karma acts negatively upon us and it destroys our consciousness. Okay, so by design, we are meant to eat vegetarian food. Now, there are other reasons also, from the point of view of economics, for example, there are very strong arguments from economics why human beings should eat vegetarian food, because the production of meat consumes much more. Because after all, meat production also depends on vegetarian food only. Because even the animals which we eat, like the cows and the horses and the goats, they also eat, plants and vegetables. So therefore, to create 1 kilo of meat, the number of kilos of vegetarian food, vegetables and plants that you have to make available is disproportionately high. So if human beings largely eat meat, then it harms the ecosystem. Okay, the economic harm is very high. And there's a big economics argument for not eating meat also given. So like this, there are, arguments from biological perspective, economic perspective, and spiritual perspective. And like this, there are one or two more perspectives from which arguments are given why vegetarian food is meant for human beings. And so dharma, see, the word dharma is that which sustains, right? Dharanat dharma ityahu. Dharmena vidritah prajaha. Or there's another version of this. Dharmena vidritah prajaha. Dharmaha dharayate prajaha. Okay. Yatsad dharana sanyuktaha sa dharma iti katyate. Dharma is that which sustains for the long term. So now if you bring it to the perspective of dharma, meat eating does not sustain. It has so many negative effects on the human being from multiple perspectives: biological perspective, economic perspective, karmic perspective, and so on. And therefore it is adharma from the sustainability argument. Okay, I'm bringing the sustainability argument through the lens of dharma. Because it doesn't sustain from multiple angles, it is adharma and it should not be done. And when you do something that is adharma, it causes rajas and tamas. It takes you into tamas. If you do that which is dharma, it gives you sattva. Okay, so now I've linked it back. You see, I've given you these points and linked it back to the original question of why is it that meat eating causes rajas and tamas and not sattva. So the conclusion is because meat eating is adharma, it leads to rajas and tamas. Because it's vegetarian food, when it's properly eaten, like the way I've described here, it is dharma and it gives you sattva. Does it give you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So all this is not my arguments. It's actually these arguments are all present in the Shastra, and today not only in the Shastra but in the Western literature also. There's so much Western literature on which I have drawn to explain what I explained to you. There's so many people in the West who were earlier eating meat who have now explained these things and said that meat eating is bad. And I always recommend this to whoever asks me this kind of question, that they should watch this movie called Game Changer. Have you seen that movie, Akshat? Game Changers on Netflix, the famous movie called Game Changers.
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, I would recommend, if you have subscription to Netflix, or if you can borrow somebody's subscription and watch this movie, Game Changers. It's a very beautiful movie made by a professional British boxer, a person who is representing the UK boxing team. He's a boxer in the UK. He initiated this thing, and he gives the voiceover in this movie. And he has actually gone through. He basically presents. It's a movie come documentary. You can say documentary like made like a movie, where he interviews a number of people, which includes researchers, scientists, sportsmen, because he's also a sportsman, a professional sportsman. He interviews a number of professional sportsmen in different fields, including our Virat Kohli, and across the world, in different countries, across the world, in different sports, all of who have become vegetarian. And so all of these people, he brings in so many arguments in that movie. Why vegetarian food? Actually, he goes one step beyond vegetarian. He's talking about vegan food, which means even milk is removed from it. Sorry. In our Shastra, we don't remove milk. Milk is considered very important too, the desi guy's milk. But this movie talks about vegan food, and he gives very good arguments. So if you want even better arguments than what I've given you, then please watch this movie, and you can actually see the transcript of the movie and write it down, extract that content, and you will see all the arguments for why we should be vegetarian and why it is sattvic to be vegetarian.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Jayashri, you want to say something?
Yes, I just thought I'll share another perspective which I've heard about food. What happens to the food that we consume? If I remember correctly, in the Chandogya Upanishad, it is said that whatever food we take, it gets what happens is there are three portions into which it is divided. The first portion, the gross portion, is the fecal matter, which goes out of the body, which is thrown out of the body. The second portion, it nourishes our dhatus, like blood, muscles, bones, etc. It builds, nourishes those. And the third portion, the most subtle portion of the food, it nourishes the mind. So for a person who is in the adhyatmic sadhana, or wants to go into the adhyatma world, for him, the mind has to be more sattvic, more in sattva, rather than in rajas and tamas. Just now we saw that rajas and tamas only disturb the mind rather than keep the mind stable. So therefore, the food that we consume has to be more sattvic, so that the sattva nourishes the mind, and therefore it helps in the adhyatmic sadhana. And therefore, when we read about Dhruva's tapasya, or when we heard the tapasya of Dhruva or Prahalada, or any of them, any of these people, we see that they stop consuming regular food and then resort to drinking just water or eating leaves, reducing the overall consumption of food, so that the mind is more and more under control. So this is another way in which the Shastra looks at the food. I thought I'll just share this because the topic came up.
Thank you. That's very good. Can you extract the original content from Chandogya Upanishad and share it with us? Not now.
Sure. I will. In the next class, I will share. There is a shloka there, which describes this: what happens to food when we consume, how it gets what are the portions which nourishes different parts of the body. So if we consume tamasic food like killing animal and consuming it, so naturally the subtle portion it disturbs the mind because the animal has been killed, and that portion is there, that violent portion. So the violence builds into our mind, and therefore our adhyatma goes, we cannot go into the adhyatmic world at all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, welcome.
Sir, this is Subhashish here. Wanted to ask a question.
Yes, Subhashish.
Sir, in some of the like Hindu temples, especially Kali temples, in some of the places in parts of Orissa, Bengal, in some of the Durga Pujas as well. Historically, sir, there is a culture of Balidan over there. One part of that is also, and after that, typically it is celebrated and people eat the meat as citing as prasad. Sir, any?
Yeah. So some of these things which are done by people, they came because you see, you cannot free somebody overnight from meat eating. And people are very tamasic, like people who are like hunters, people who live a life of where they have been born and brought up eating meat, killing animals. That is their staple diet. And suddenly you say that you have to not eat meat. That would just, either they would completely reject it or it would make them mad. They would not be able to accept that. So to accommodate them and give them a path of somehow making some advancement in spirituality, some of these practices have evolved. They are not present. That's called tamasic shastra. Shastra which advocates that is called tamasic shastra, which allows them to connect with some form of higher being, and even the form of the deity they worship, the deity of Kali. What does the deity of Kali look like? It has a very ghora rupa. That's called ghora rupa, where it's ghastly. That the form of Kali is not the form that you feel love towards. You feel fear. You submit yourself to that form because it's a destructive form. That lady standing there with the tongue outside, her husband is at her feet. She's stamping on her husband, right? She's holding a trident. She's ready to kill. That kind of a fearful kind of form that she takes. So it is for people with that mentality so that they can submit themselves to a higher power. Only to a form like Kali, they feel that subordination. If you show them the form of Krishna playing the flute, a sweet looking boy, it doesn't look like God to them. They won't be able to relate with that form as God. They will just think it is some like the goat and the chicken they eat. It looks some soft object like that. But Kali is the form that they will relate with, and to that Kali they offer their meat. So in their mindset, that kind of tantra takes them towards God. And eventually, because by doing that, eventually there is that, little bit of sattva that may come into them because of virtue of connecting with a higher power. Kali, after all, is that same Bhagavan appearing in that form, right? Bhagavan appears to them like that. So because of that connection with Mother Kali, they may develop some sattva, and in the future, they may be able to come to a better state of life where they can understand why giving up meat is required, like we are able to understand today.
Got it, sir. And sir, about the what about the Durga Mata Balidans in many places? Is there any insights? Is it a similar?
Very similar. Kali, Durga Mata's form is also, you see, it's not like Mother Kali's form, but it's also a form of where she is standing and attacking, right? See that attacking Mahishasura Mardini. She's sitting on a lion attacking and so on. So very similar kind of logic there too. The Balidan concept came because of that, because to accommodate people who have this mentality. So Shastra for them is written in that manner.
Got it, sir. Got it, sir. Got it.
Unfortunately,
And also answer in some of the and maybe my understanding is very limited. In some of the Kali Mata temples, like there's a place in West Bengal known as Tarapeeth, which is also supposed to be a very revered place. There, they also use a form of alcohol as prasad over there, and it's also used in the puja over there. Not in, for example, the other Kali pujas which happens in parts of Calcutta or near about Calcutta. But is there any reason? And I understand it's a different way of puja also that happens. So would you have any idea about this as well, sir?
I don't have any particular knowledge about that particular place and how it came, but from what I know, it's similar to what I already answered to you. And I think it is only to accommodate people who are in that state who cannot give it up overnight. Just like, I mean, I give you a crude analogy, de-addiction from drugs. How does it happen? Now, somebody is a drug addict and you want to make that person a normal person, then you cannot overnight stop the drugs, right? If you do that, then that person may die because psychologically that person won't be able to take it. And their body also may not be able to take it. Their body has become dependent on that particular drug. And the body's functions require the drug to be able to continue. So for de-addiction, you gradually, reduce the thing and engage them in other things, expose them to other activities, food, psychologically they feel better, and gradually reduce the consumption of that alcohol or drug and make them slowly normal. So that is the process that de-addiction normally takes, overall process. So I think this is also like that. This is giving them an avenue by which they can connect with God through the things that they are used to, they are conditioned to. They're conditioned to alcohol, they're conditioned to meat, they're conditioned to killing animals. So through that process, gradually take them to a better state, free them from that.
Got it, sir. Got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
This is my understanding.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Because none of the major shastra, the shastra which the rishis and the munis advocate, which they follow, like you see Vyasdev ji and Narada Rishi, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavata, the Vishnu Purana, all the major Mahapuranas, none of them advocate such kind of diet and so on. So these are all in the other tantras. They are called the tamasic Purans, Rajasic and Tamasic Purans, which are not among the 18 Mahapuranas.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So even among those who are hearing all this now, if somebody is watching my class on video or something, if they are eating meat, the message would be the same, that the goal is to overcome that, but you may not be able to overcome it overnight. So then the process to do it would be to reduce it gradually. If you're eating 3 times a week, make it once a week. And then have some weeks in which you don't eat meat at all. And in this way, gradually, after maybe a year, you can completely overcome meat because you start tasting. How does it happen? It happens by getting a higher taste, by developing the taste for sattvic items, sattvic food, a sattvic lifestyle, a sattvic state of mind. By experiencing that sattvic state of mind and the sattvic lifestyle, one then decides that let me completely get rid of meat from my life. I don't need it at all. So that is how you gradually do it. And I would recommend that instead of leaving anything overnight. Yes, Puneet. Puneet, you had a question? Puneet, you can speak. We're not able to hear you. Yes. Your audio is not coming through. Are you speaking something? Just check your connection. Please check your connection. Your audio is not coming through. I think you're trying to speak.
I'm audible right now?
Yes, now you're audible. I heard you, but again, I'm not able to hear. Are you speaking now?
Sir, in today's learning, we have just one tamas, but today in today's world, sir, when you are responsible towards your family, friends, and worldly affairs. it is very impossible to
Puneet, again, your audio went away. I heard that when you are responsible for your family, then it's impossible to do what? No, your microphone has got some loose connection. So some words are coming in between and getting cut. Can you remove the microphone and depend on your computer's inbuilt microphone? Remove that microphone.
family, friends in this. But is it possible to completely ignore the rajas and tamas guna? Because you are working in this world, somehow you always get involved into this material world and all these things. So
Yeah.
it is possible today's world to get into sattva guna.
Yes, it is possible, but through a gradual manner. Just like you can't climb a mountain in one step. When you climb a mountain, see, for any mountain, there are roads which go along the surface of the mountain. They go circular roads, right? We have ghat roads. How does a ghat road go? It doesn't go straight vertically up. It goes in circles, goes in loops. So it is possible to reach the top of the mountain if we take that route. If you try to go straight up, you may not reach anywhere. So it's possible to become sattvic if you take a gradual path. We very much acknowledge that today's world is filled with rajas and tamas. Everywhere there is rajas and tamas surrounding us and bombarding us. But what can we do about it if we want to become sattvic? The first thing we should do is we should make up our mind that every single day I will try to do as much as I can to be sattvic within the boundaries of what is possible for me. For example, a simple thing like going for a walk in the morning. It's possible for most of us. Most of us can do that. Even a 15 minutes walk around the colony is possible for most of us, right? Similarly, if we are eating non-veg, to reduce the non-veg is possible for most of us. So in this manner, in our life, in our individual life, we have to identify all the possible avenues. You have to go down to the micro level and do an analysis and see where is it possible to make my life more sattvic. Pick out those small elements and convert them slowly into sattvic from rajasic, right? If you have a habit of going to a lot of parties, okay, most of the parties that we are invited to are invariably very rajasic and very tamasic also sometimes. So can I just go to a party and not get involved in the rajas of the environment? Be unaffected. Go to the party, do what I have to do by wishing somebody. Maybe I have to gift somebody something in that party. Maybe it's a birthday party. I have to say happy birthday and gift them something. Can I go to the party, spend a shorter amount of time there and come back? Is it possible? Do I have to be there and dance with them? Should I do that? Is it necessary? So ask these questions. We have to keep critically asking ourselves the questions of what is possible, what is not possible, right? And slowly bring that change towards becoming more sattvic. Identify those elements of rajas and tamas. So in this manner, it's possible over a period of time. It may take 10 years from today to become significantly more sattvic than we are today. But if we take one small step every day, in a very short time, we'll see that difference. We'll start seeing the difference and we feel encouraged by doing that. So I think it is very much possible to become sattvic in today's
So
world.
like this, like we have all the goals for the family, for my kids, for my family. I have to earn money for next 1 year, for 2 year, for this much amount of package we should have about it. Isn't it making us closer to our material things? But it is very much required. Or otherwise, we will say you are a very irresponsible person for your family, for friends. What kind of person you are? As a father, as a brother, you have to earn some money. When you are going for earning for money or some kind of thing, then you are automatically attached to the material world. Many times I will face success, many times I will face failures. When I will face failure, I may start blaming others or some situation that will increase tamas in me.
Yeah. So let me begin by answering your question like this, that compared to the person who is influenced by rajas and tamas, the person who is sattvic has the best sense of responsibility. It is a misunderstanding that becoming sattvic or becoming spiritual means giving up responsibility. I don't know from where that misunderstanding comes. It's a perception by people. It's a complete misunderstanding. The correct understanding is that by becoming sattvic, becoming spiritual, one becomes more responsible and one does their responsibilities with detachment. So again, detachment doesn't mean irresponsible. Detachment doesn't mean I don't care. Detachment means I care, but I care for the right things, not care for the wrong things. I care, but I care for the right things in the right way and not for the wrong things. So what does it mean? So like, for example, I have put here, working with a sense of duty, free from greed for more and more. Okay. Now tell me, Puneet, in your occupation, okay, you are a research scientist, I think, somewhere, right? What are you doing? What is your occupation? Tell me.
It's a teaching.
Teaching. You're a teacher. Okay. So I am also a teacher, so I can relate with you. Now, as a teacher, is it possible to do your work with a sense of duty without the greed for getting a lot of money from your work, without thinking of ways by which I can just go on increasing money? Now, if you do your work with a sense of duty, definitely you will get a salary. Nobody will deny you your salary. Is it correct?
Right, sir.
It's correct.
Right, sir. Mm.
And if you do your work with a sense of duty, very responsibly, focus on your work and do the best you can do in your work, definitely they will eventually promote you one day or the other. Maybe after 2 years, 3 years, you will get a promotion, you will get an increment. So the money you are earning will definitely increase. Is
Right.
it correct or not?
Right, sir.
That's correct. Right? Now, suppose you find that you are not able to make your commitments with the amount of salary you are earning, then is it possible for you to look for another teaching job in a different institute where they will pay you more? Is it possible?
Yes, sir.
That may also be possible. Now, all that, even looking for a job where they pay you more because you have to meet your family's requirements, is not rajas or tamas. It's a matter of duty. It's a matter of responsibility. It's very much within the purview of sattva. Now, it goes into rajas and tamas when you are chasing money and you are chasing power and you are chasing position, which is not required to maintain your family alone or not required to live a stable life, but is much more than that. It's because you have a strong desire that you want to enjoy all the pleasures of this world. For example, you heard that some friend of yours went on a cruise in the Caribbean. Okay, and he showed you photos of going on the Royal Caribbean cruise, how he danced, how he partied, how he saw this, he saw that. You see all that, and then you start feeling the desire. And then you realize that you are not earning enough to go on a cruise, because going on a cruise will cost you at least a few lakhs of rupees, and your savings don't allow for that. And then in your heart, discontentment develops, and then you want to figure out ways that apart from your duty, which is your job as a teacher in your institute, you also have to now figure out other ways of earning money. For example, investing in the stock market, or going and doing some gambling somewhere, or doing something, and figure out side means of earning money. Sometimes you may decide to cheat somebody because you have to somehow get money to be able to go on a cruise with your family. Now, this is where it goes into rajas and tamas. Okay, now this I don't include as responsibility. Would you call this as a responsibility towards your family? Please tell me. I don't think it is. I think this is where the distinction is made between responsibility to give your family a sattvic life and wanting to indulge in the sensual pleasures of this world. See, that is where a distinction is made. Okay, some amount of sensual pleasure is required. For example, sometimes you may go to a restaurant if you don't want to eat home food all the time. You get bored with it. Well, that's fine. That's natural because we are not in that level of sattva so as of now, right? We also have rajas and tamas in us. So sort of satisfy that rajasic and tamasic craving, we sometimes go to a restaurant. But when you want to do it excessively, that is when you are actually feeding your rajas and tamas. And that is something we can try to avoid. Okay, unless it's impossible, unless the craving is so strong, I think we should consciously work on that.
Right.
Please think about it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for clearing my confusion. That's one.
Please think about it. It may not be easy to understand what I said because we have so many cravings. We have craving for power, we have craving for position, right? We have a sense of very often a sense of insult. We get apaman ho jata hai. I remember one colleague of mine, I was working in a company long back, about 25 years back, 25 years back. And he was a colleague and he was just like me, a manager like me. and he was interacting with our MD. Our MD used to call sometimes me, him for some task, something. And our MD was a rich man. He would go on foreign tours very often. And sometimes to encourage the employees, he would send some employee on a foreign tour because that employee was performing well. Or he felt that if I send him on a foreign tour and give him some enjoyment, then he will come back and he will feel motivated to perform better. Now, this particular fellow, he wanted to go on a foreign tour and enjoy, experience that enjoyment. But somehow the MD was not sending him, and he was not happy about that. So he tried to do some extra performance and tried to get some, bhav with the MD and get himself a foreign tour. But even after doing that, he didn't get that foreign tour. So he became very angry and he felt very insulted. And then one day he came and told me that, look, I went and showed him who I am. मैंने दिखाया कि मैं कौन हूँ. Why? Because I went with my own savings, I went on the foreign tour. I didn't need him. I don't need him to send me. I don't care for him. You see, I went and showed him the photos, me in Paris and Geneva and this and that. You see, this kind of a feeling, where that craving is so strong, the craving to go on a foreign tour is so strong in him that he had to, go beyond his thing. So, and, he felt that he had actually accomplished a great thing in life by doing this. I don't think the MD was concerned about it because for him, going on a foreign tour was just a small thing, like you and I go to office every day. For him, it was like that. But for this fellow, it was a big thing. And so sometimes our rajas and tamas gets better of us. And we should be cautious. We should be aware of it. And sometimes if we are not able to control it, then okay, once in a while indulge in it, but be aware that we have to overcome it one day. We have to be aware of that. Otherwise, we don't get the benefit of listening to all this. If we don't work on it, we have to work on it.
Thank you, sir. It's a very thoughtful question.
So I think we have already reached the end of our class. If there are no further questions, shall I close for today? I'll say the Antya Mangalam and please chant the Hare Krishna mantra with me. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. धन्यवादाः. पुनर्मिलामः.